Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's another episode of It Gets Real with Brother David. Um, Glad to be back with you this week. Feeling much better. The bronchitis is about to give up and I think move on its way to greener pastures, hopefully. You know, today I want you to, our message is going to come out of 1Peter 5:7, our talk. You know, and 1Peter 5:7 says, casting all your worries on him because he cares for you. You know, bills pile up, stress comes, increases, work puts pressure on us. You got family struggles, you got health concerns, you got cultural concerns, you got wars, everyday things all conspire to cause you to give up, to just throw your hands up and say, what am I going to do? You know, but the reality of it is that as God's children, in the grand scheme of things, today's cares, today's worries are not for us. You know, God says take whatever concerns us, whatever bothers us, to place it on Him, to give it to Him, because He loves us and He wants us to live the life that He has planned for us. So, you know, instead of doing what most people do when things go sideways, you know, they turn to man. And there are some things that some people can help you with, but the only true answer, the only one that can truly help you is the one that's in charge, and that's God. You know, many people, the first thing they turn to is somebody they know. You know, and we have to understand that each and every one of us are facing trials and tribulations. We're facing the cares of this world, and we need to be prepared to turn to the only one I know that can answer those questions. Man can't help us. During the pandemic, you know, everybody turned to the world. And the world says, you need to stay in your house. You don't need to go to work. You just need to stay put in one place. And now we're seeing the reality of what that caused. You know, we're seeing the outcome of that. The economy is slow to start back up. You know, people not willing to go back to work. People afraid to get out of their house, even today, because of COVID. There are people that are still housebound because they fear getting out, because they trusted man to take care of their problem. They trusted government to save them. And in reality, government didn't save them. In fact, government may have harmed them more than saved them, because food prices are out of sight, because farmers can't sell their produce, cattle ranchers can't sell their produce, their beef, pork farmers can't sell their pork, chicken farmers can't sell their chicken because the processing plants can't process them. Therefore, the prices go up in the stores. Clean energy. Now, folks, I know some of you believe in clean energy, and you know, and electric things are good. I agree with that. But the reality of it is, our power grid cannot sustain every American that has a car converting over to an electric car. Electric cars, you can't fill them up as fast as you can a gas engine, a gas car. And so you're going to have a harder time finding service stations because there's going to be cars parked on the chargers. And the grid is not going to be able to carry that demand. And so what they're trying to sell, what the government's trying to sell, and what others are trying to sell is that it can carry that. And the electric company is already saying it can't carry that. And it takes around $6,000 to $12,000 to put a charging station in your home, on top of the cost of the vehicle. Government is not taking care of us. Government is harming us in that way. They're trying to push for gasoline engines to be gone by the year 2035. And the reality is going to come out that it can't. And the electric grid right now is having difficulties sustaining the demands that are on it right now without any excess demands. Don't believe me? Look in the summertime when everybody's trying to run an air conditioner and they're having to do rolling blackouts because they don't have the capacity to continue running all this running in the States. So we instead of looking to man, instead of looking to the government to take care of us, what we need to do is look to God. God has promised He's going to sustain us. He's promised that He's going to give us food. He's promised He's going to give us a roof over our heads. He promised He's going to put clothes on our backs. What the world wants us to do is panic. Because when we panic, then we look for somebody to tell us what to do to fix our problem. And the world is quite willing to step in and say, I can fix this. I can tell you what you need to do. You just need to follow what I tell you to do. What nobody else says, but what I say. Now, I'm going to go back to the pandemic. During that time period, there were people that said, wearing a mask is what you need to do. And there's others that were saying masks don't do anything to help it. And the reality is that a virus can go through masks both ways, not just one way, both ways. And so stay home. That's why they're telling everybody to stay home. They were telling families not to associate with themselves. Isolation. When they take prisoners of war, they isolate them. Break them down mentally. Don't let them have contact with anybody. So when you break people away from their family unit, you begin to break them down. You begin to psychologically get them to listen. If they'll listen to you by not going to see their family, then they'll begin to listen to you about everything. You see, the world wants you to be burdened down. The world wants you to be in stress, to panic, to be in panic mode. Because when you're in that mode, you're not thinking clearly. You're not doing what God wants you to do. The world wants us to be so overwhelmed that we can't see God. They want us to be so caught up in the troubles that are going on around us that we forget who we need to be turning to. But as children of God, we're commanded not to worry about life. We are told that to put the burdens on God. Now that sounds easier said than done, but the reality of it is we cannot live the life God wants us to live unless we obey Him and place our burdens on Him. He doesn't want us to be burdened down. He doesn't want us to have worries. He wants us to have our thoughts on Him at all times. God has given us the cure for our worries and our concerns. He said, give them to me. Let me carry them. Let me be the one to fix them. You just trust me. And the way we can do that is that we need to remember what God has already done for us. Think about where you were before you found God. Then think about where you were when you found God. And think about and where you are now. And think about where God wants you to be in the future. Think about where you're going. Instead of looking here and wringing your hands in despair, look into the future and see where God wants you to be. You see, that's where you're traveling. That's the road that you're on. All of us needs to change the lens through which we view this world. Instead of viewing this world through a worldly view, where we get concerned about the actions and things that are going on around us, we need to look at the world through God's lens. We need to look at the long run, see where we're going, see the end game. You know, we need to keep our focus on Jesus. No matter what comes in our path, no matter what comes our way, we need to keep our focus on Jesus. We need to keep walking with Him. We need to keep talking with Him. We need to keep doing what He wants us to do and not what the world wants us to do. You see, God has a much better plan for us than we do. The world wants to hold us down. The world wants to hold us down. The world wants to weigh us down so that we're too tired to do anything. God wants to free us of that. So, this week, give it to God. Give everything to God. Don't just say it, do it. God's already got a plan. God has a use for you. Seek it out. That's my prayer for you this week. And until the next time, God bless you.